It sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this, and the world's biggest victim.
The California fairy tale appears to be unraveling fast. Prince Harry is reportedly preparing to leave behind the Montecito estate that once symbolized independence, privacy, and a brand new chapter of life away from royal duties. Yet this is being portrayed as far more than a routine trip back to Britain. According to ongoing speculation, it is not being framed as a journey centered on family reconciliation or healing old wounds. Instead, critics describe it as a retreat toward the very institution Harry once publicly challenged. The timing has fueled even more discussion because, just as rumors of his departure intensified, broadcaster Piers Morgan released photographs that immediately reignited controversy on both sides of the Atlantic. The images were not presented as ordinary vacation photos or harmless snapshots from Meghan Markle's social years before joining the royal family. Instead, commentators focused on photographs showing her attending elite social events and moving within high-profile international circles, because some of those social networks have faced years of public scrutiny due to their associations with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. The pictures quickly became the subject of intense online debate. For critics, the issue is not necessarily what appears in the photographs themselves, but what they believe those images represent. The same social world that contributed to the long-running public controversy surrounding Prince Andrew has once again become a topic of discussion. As a result, some observers argue that Harry now finds himself facing a level of pressure he never anticipated when he left royal life behind. The irony has not gone unnoticed by royal watchers. After years of criticizing royal structures and publicly speaking about his frustrations with the monarchy, Harry is now frequently portrayed by commentators as moving back toward the protection and stability once offered by the institution he rejected. The revelations from Piers Morgan became a major talking point almost immediately. Morgan has built much of his public reputation on confronting controversial subjects, but supporters and critics alike acknowledge that these latest claims generated an unusually strong reaction. During interviews discussing the photographs, Morgan stated that his previous comments regarding Meghan had triggered more than 57,000 complaints to ITV. Public reaction was fierce. Social media platforms exploded with arguments, with some users defending Meghan passionately, while others demanded further scrutiny of the claims being discussed. One of the most heavily debated aspects of the story involves Morgan's assertion that Meghan personally contacted individuals connected to his employer following earlier disputes. The claim itself has remained a subject of disagreement, with supporters of Meghan arguing that public figures have every right to challenge reporting they believe is unfair, while critics interpreted the alleged communication differently. Despite years of controversy, Morgan frequently points out that he remains a visible public voice. He argues that information gathered over many years continues to support his criticisms, and that additional details are only now attracting widespread attention. The photographs themselves have fueled renewed examination of Meghan's social life before her royal marriage. Particular focus has been placed on appearances connected to international Soho House events, including a well-known opening in Istanbul during 2015. Former attendees and commentators have often described such events as highly curated social environments. These gatherings brought together celebrities, entrepreneurs, investors, media executives, and influential figures from multiple industries. People attended not only for entertainment but also for networking opportunities that often extended far beyond what the public could see. Within those circles, attractive and outgoing guests sometimes helped create a welcoming atmosphere before major VIP arrivals. Critics have used the term social filler when discussing this role, though others argue the label oversimplifies the networking culture that existed at many luxury events. What remains undisputed is that these environments offered access. Exclusive parties, luxury venues, private gatherings, international travel, and relationships with influential people were all part of the attraction. Such settings naturally created curiosity because many interactions occurred far from public view. Observers point to the fact that Meghan appeared at numerous high-profile events across different countries over several years. Those appearances have become a source of fascination because they occurred before she became one of the most recognized women in the world. Questions about finances have also repeatedly surfaced. At the time many of these photographs were taken, Meghan was best known for her role on the television series Suits. She was a recognizable actress with a successful career, but not someone generally viewed as occupying the highest tier of Hollywood celebrity status. This has led critics to ask how she was able to participate in such an upscale international lifestyle, travel across multiple continents, attendance at luxury gatherings, accommodations at prestigious hotels, and access to elite circles have all become part of the broader conversation. Supporters respond by noting that successful actors often receive invitations, sponsorship opportunities, promotional travel arrangements, and networking benefits that are not always visible to the public. Critics, however, continue to argue that certain aspects of the lifestyle deserve closer examination. The discussion has therefore centered less on direct accusations and more on unanswered questions. People observed the travel, the connections, and the proximity to enormous wealth. They noticed repeated appearances within influential social environments and wondered how those opportunities developed. Importantly, no evidence has emerged accusing Meghan of criminal wrongdoing. That distinction remains essential. Instead, many observers simply stored away details and observations, waiting to see whether future developments would provide additional context. Years later, when Meghan entered the global spotlight through her relationship with Prince Harry, those old photographs and social connections suddenly attracted renewed interest. Images that once seemed insignificant were re-examined through a completely different lens. The name Ghislaine Maxwell inevitably enters these discussions because of her former position within elite social circles. Maxwell is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence in Florida following her conviction on federal charges. Her downfall marks the collapse of a social network that once connected influential individuals from politics, business, entertainment, and international society. Some commentators argue that people in Maxwell's position can become particularly significant once their influence disappears. The reasoning is simple. Individuals who have lost status, wealth, and freedom may possess information that was previously kept private. Reports and speculation have circulated for years regarding what Maxwell may or may not have shared with investigators. While many claims remain unverified, the possibility alone has fueled enormous public curiosity. Attention has also focused on Soho House because it occupied a unique place within international networking culture. Publicly, it functioned as a private members club associated with creative industries, entertainment, and entrepreneurship. Behind the scenes, however, critics argue that it also served as a meeting point where powerful individuals from very different worlds could interact. Hollywood personalities mingled with financiers. Media figures met aristocrats. Entrepreneurs connected with celebrities. The attraction was not merely luxury, but access to people who might otherwise never cross paths. Because Meghan attended events connected to that world, her presence there continues to attract scrutiny. Commentators have argued that she occupied spaces specifically designed to encourage networking, influence building, and relationship formation among ambitious and successful individuals. Another major area of discussion emerged during legal proceedings involving Virginia Giuffre. Giuffre's allegations dramatically reshaped public perceptions of Prince Andrew and ultimately contributed to his withdrawal from public royal duties. During portions of the legal process, reports surfaced suggesting that Meghan's name had been discussed as a potential witness. It is important to emphasize that being considered as a witness is entirely different from being accused of wrongdoing. Witnesses are often individuals who may possess relevant knowledge, have attended certain events, or have encountered people connected to a case. Their role is to provide information rather than defend themselves against allegations. According to reports circulating at the time, several factors reportedly made Meghan a person of potential interest. She resided in the United States, had social familiarity with key figures, and had connections to social circles that overlapped with people discussed throughout the broader Epstein-related investigations. Ultimately, Meghan never testified. The case concluded before any such step became necessary. Nevertheless, the mere suggestion that her testimony could have been considered became a subject of fascination among commentators and royal critics. For some observers, that detail represented a significant story that never received sustained public attention. Others viewed it as an example of speculation being amplified beyond what available evidence justified. Regardless of interpretation, interest in the subject never fully disappeared. Years later, renewed attention surrounding old photographs, social connections, and discussions about elite networking circles has brought many of those earlier questions back into public conversation. Now, with fresh debates erupting online, older stories are being revisited and re-examined. Events that once seemed distant are suddenly being discussed again with renewed intensity. The combination of revived photographs, ongoing media coverage, and continuing public curiosity has created a perfect storm of speculation. At the same time, Montecito itself has become an increasingly difficult environment for the Sussexes, as criticism, scrutiny, and relentless media attention continue to grow on both sides of the Atlantic, turning what once appeared to be a peaceful sanctuary into a place surrounded by constant pressure and controversy. What began as a series of separate challenges has increasingly been portrayed by critics as one giant crisis unfolding from every direction at once. Each issue appears to feed the next, creating a cycle of negative headlines that has become difficult for Prince Harry and Meghan Markle to escape. According to ongoing reports and local speculation, the couple's standing within Montecito's exclusive social circles has changed dramatically. Invitations that may once have been available reportedly no longer arrive. Community events, charity functions, and private gatherings are frequently cited as examples of social spaces where the Sussexes are no longer viewed as central figures. One local source summarized the perception bluntly, saying, "This community has actual celebrities who don't create international drama everywhere they go. We value privacy, discretion, and people who contribute positively to the community." The Sussexes brought cameras, controversy, and constant chaos. They're not welcome here anymore. Whether that opinion reflects the entire community or only a portion of it remains open to debate, but stories like these continue to circulate. While social acceptance may be difficult to measure, financial concerns are easier for critics to point toward. Much attention has focused on the Sussexes' high-profile media agreements, particularly their partnership with Netflix. When the deal was first announced, it generated enormous excitement and headlines around the world. Expectations were massive. Supporters envisioned groundbreaking documentaries, inspirational programming, and exclusive projects built around the couple's unique position. Critics, however, argue that the results failed to match the anticipation. The documentary series generated significant attention, but reactions were sharply divided. Some viewers found it compelling, while others felt it focused too heavily on grievances and controversy. Subsequent projects struggled to maintain momentum, leading industry observers to question the long-term future of the partnership. Entertainment insiders have repeatedly suggested that enthusiasm within the industry has cooled. One source described the situation harshly, claiming that the expected audience growth and engagement simply failed to meet projections. Whether that assessment is completely accurate or not, the perception alone has become part of the broader narrative surrounding the couple's media ventures. Questions have also followed the Archewell organization. Over time, multiple staff members departed, creating headlines that fueled speculation about internal challenges. Employee turnover can happen for many reasons, but critics argue that the number of departures attracted unusual attention. Among those who left was James Holt, a senior figure closely associated with Archewell's operations. His departure became particularly notable because of how prominently he had been connected to the organization's public image. Other exits followed, further encouraging stories about instability behind the scenes. Public relations turnover drew similar scrutiny. In industries built on communication, reputation, and long-term planning, Rapid leadership changes often generate questions. Observers pointed to several departures as evidence that maintaining consistency within the organization had become increasingly difficult. At the same time, discussions about finances continue to dominate coverage. The Montecito property itself represents a major commitment. Beyond the purchase price, ongoing costs include taxes, maintenance, staffing, and security. For public figures who receive intense media attention, security expenses alone can be substantial. Critics argue that maintaining such a lifestyle requires continuous income streams and successful business partnerships. When major contracts face uncertainty, speculation naturally follows about how sustainable those arrangements may be over the long term. The collapse of the Spotify partnership became another major talking point. Public comments from industry figures amplified the controversy and encouraged even more scrutiny of the Sussexes' business ventures. Combined with questions surrounding other projects, the result has been a growing perception that several highly anticipated opportunities have not developed as originally expected. Reports have even suggested that Meghan has explored alternative locations for the family's future. Texas has frequently appeared in speculation because of its financial advantages, while parts of Europe have also been mentioned due to privacy considerations. Yet critics argue that relocation cannot solve reputational challenges. No matter where someone lives, global media coverage follows them. In today's digital world, stories travel instantly, making geographic distance far less meaningful than it once was. As renewed attention focuses on old photographs and social connections, another controversy has resurfaced as well. Claims regarding inconsistencies in public discussions about Meghan's pregnancies have once again become a topic of online debate. These allegations have circulated for years and remain heavily disputed. Supporters argue that pregnancy affects every woman differently, and that public speculation about private medical matters is both unfair and intrusive. Critics, however, continue to point to photographs, videos, and public appearances that they believe raise unanswered questions. Much of the comparison centres on Catherine, Princess of Wales, whose pregnancies unfolded under a highly visible public spotlight. Following the births of her children, Catherine participated in the traditional hospital appearances that became familiar to royal observers around the world. By contrast, Meghan chose a more private approach. That decision alone generated discussion because it departed from expectations established by previous royal births. Supporters viewed the choice as completely reasonable. Critics interpreted the secrecy differently and argued that it created opportunities for speculation. Over time, internet discussions focused heavily on changing appearances in photographs and videos. Some observers claimed certain images looked inconsistent, while others dismissed those claims as the result of camera angles, clothing choices, lighting, and the natural variations that occur throughout pregnancy. Questions also emerged regarding scheduling reports and public appearances. Various claims circulated online suggesting discrepancies between rumoured appointments and documented events. However, many of these reports were never independently verified, leaving much of the discussion rooted in speculation rather than established fact. Another frequently discussed issue involved birth plans. Prior reports suggested that Meghan preferred a more private and personal birth experience, when details later emerged indicating a different medical setting than some observers expected. Critics argued that the change should have been explained more clearly. Supporters countered that birth plans often change for personal, medical, or practical reasons. They noted that families are not obligated to disclose every detail of private healthcare decisions simply because they are public figures. Despite those arguments, the topic continues to resurface whenever broader debates about transparency and public trust emerge. For critics, the issue is less about any single event and more about what they see as a recurring pattern of conflicting narratives. The controversy becomes even more significant when viewed alongside the royal family's previous scandals. Prince Andrew's downfall remains one of the most dramatic reputational collapses in modern royal history, and it serves as a constant reminder of how quickly public standing can change. Harry witnessed that process firsthand. He saw how years of criticism eventually evolved into a crisis that permanently altered Andrew's position within royal life. More importantly, he saw how legal proceedings, sworn statements, and documented evidence carried far greater weight than ordinary media speculation. That distinction matters because public controversies often fade, headlines disappear, social media outrage moves on, rumors come and go. Legal records, however, remain. The reason the Andrew story continues to resonate is not because of tabloid coverage alone. It is because allegations, testimony, court filings, and documented evidence created a permanent record that could not simply be managed through public relations strategies. For many royal observers, that remains the most important lesson. Institutions, reputations, and carefully crafted public images can survive criticism for years. They can withstand rumors, negative press, and endless online debate. But when controversies move beyond speculation and enter the realm of official records, sworn testimony, and legally documented facts, the situation changes completely. That is the point where reputational crises often become permanent, and it is precisely why Prince Andrew's experience continues to stand as a cautionary example of how quickly a carefully constructed shield can collapse once formal evidence enters the picture and becomes part of the historical record forever. The comparison that many royal commentators continue to make between Prince Andrew's controversies and Prince Harry's current challenges has become one of the most talked about aspects of this ongoing story. Whether the comparison is fair or not, it has gained traction because both situations involve intense public scrutiny, media attention, and questions about associations that continue to generate debate years later. Harry likely understands better than most people how quickly public perception can change. He watched as controversy surrounding Andrew evolved from troubling headlines into a crisis that permanently altered Andrew's role within royal life. That experience alone may explain why many observers believe Harry pays close attention to how reputational issues develop and grow over time. A major point frequently discussed by critics is that Meghan's name was reportedly considered as a potential witness during legal proceedings connected to Virginia Giuffre's case. It is important to remember that being discussed as a possible witness is not the same as being accused of wrongdoing. Witnesses may simply have information that investigators believe could be relevant to a broader matter. Still, the fact that her name appeared in discussions surrounding such a high-profile case has remained a source of public curiosity. Critics view it as significant. Supporters argue that no testimony occurred and that the importance of the matter has been exaggerated over time. Many analysts believe the larger issue for Harry is not one specific allegation, but the way narratives build momentum. Once public questions begin circulating, every new headline can become attached to the same storyline, whether the connection is justified or not. This is where some observers argue that royal institutions differ from celebrity culture. Royal controversies often remain part of public discussion for years, sometimes decades. Books, documentaries, interviews, and media coverage can keep old stories alive long after the original headlines fade away. Commentators frequently point out that long-established institutions possess resources and experience developed over generations. Legal teams, communications advisors, and crisis management experts are often cited as examples of mechanisms that help public figures navigate periods of intense scrutiny. Some royal watchers have even referenced members of other European royal families whose past controversies eventually faded from public attention after years of reduced media focus. Whether those situations are comparable remains a matter of opinion, but such examples are often brought into the discussion. However, many legal experts note an important distinction. Public controversy and legal proceedings are very different things. Headlines come and go. Public debate changes daily. Official records, court filings, and sworn testimony carry a different level of permanence. That distinction is one reason why discussions surrounding Harry and Meghan continue to attract so much attention. Some critics speculate about what information may or may not emerge in the future, while supporters argue that years of speculation have produced more rumors than verified facts. At the center of much of the debate is a simple question often raised by commentators. How much did Harry know about Meghan's life before they married? And how relevant is that question today? Critics argue that public figures should expect scrutiny regarding their backgrounds and associations. Supporters respond that everyone has a past, and that attempts to reinterpret ordinary social connections years later can easily become unfair or misleading. The truth is that much of what is discussed publicly involves interpretation rather than confirmed fact. Different audiences often reach very different conclusions from the same information. What cannot be denied is that the public image surrounding Harry and Meghan has changed dramatically since their wedding. Early coverage focused heavily on optimism, modernization, and a new chapter for the monarchy. In recent years, conversations have shifted toward media disputes, business ventures, family tensions, and public perception. Critics continue pointing to old photographs, media reports, staffing changes, and various controversies as reasons for concern. Supporters argue that many of these stories have been repeatedly recycled and amplified beyond their actual significance. Another topic frequently discussed is the couple's decision not to publicly respond to every allegation or rumor. Critics interpret that silence as suspicious. Supporters see it as a deliberate choice not to engage with every controversy that emerges online. This disagreement sits at the heart of the broader debate. Some people view silence as strategic, others view it as caution. Still others see it as a sign that public figures are simply choosing not to fuel additional media coverage. The same divide appears whenever Harry's actions are analysed. A trip can be viewed as evidence of crisis by one group and as a routine personal decision by another. Public reactions often reveal as much about the audience as they do about the event itself. Meanwhile, speculation about the future continues. Will new information emerge? Will old controversies eventually fade? Will future projects reshape public perception? At this stage, nobody knows. What is clear is that public fascination with Harry and Meghan remains remarkably strong. Years after stepping away from official royal duties, they continue to generate global headlines and intense discussion. As new developments appear, supporters and critics continue to interpret events through very different lenses. Some believe the couple will eventually move beyond these controversies. Others believe unanswered questions will continue following them for years. For now, the debate remains ongoing, public interest remains high, media coverage continues, and the next chapter of the story has yet to be written. Will Harry and Meghan successfully move past the controversies that continue to surround them? Will future developments change public opinion once again? Or will the questions continue growing louder as time goes on? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this discussion, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. We'll continue following the latest developments and bringing you new coverage as this story unfolds.